Hi there. Hi.
Isaiah.
Good night.
Good night, good night.
Oh, Zaya. Zaya. Come here, please. So good night. Good night.
What are you doing when you're ready?
When you're ready.
You're ready?
This
You want to say good night to St. Kitts?
Yeah.
Yeah?
What are you gonna say? Good night, St. Kitts.
Okay. Good evening. Welcome to Fear in Our Favor. And before I get into the sum and substance of what I have to discuss tonight, I would like my sweet little granddaughter to say good night to St. Kitts, her second home. And I hope that I'll be seeing her
Good
soon.
night, St. Kitts. Second home.
Yes. Say good night.
Good night, St. Kitts. Second home.
And how was your day today?
Put it in the mic.
Good.
Huh?
Yes. That's the proper way on the video. Good. And now let me go eat my food. Thank you. Bye-bye. Just say goodbye. Bye-bye.
Okay. At least you said hi to the people of St. Kitts, okay? I'll call you all after the show.
Alright, no problem. Good
Okay.
night.
Yes, that's a source of inspiration for me. One of the four sources of inspiration. Now we have quite a few things to discuss. Somebody should have been here with me. The gentleman who is experiencing some difficulties with respect to his social security benefit. I don't know if he misunderstood when I told him from 8 to 10. Maybe he thought it was this morning, but I've been calling him and I haven't been able to connect with him. So I'll see what we'll do in its place. Now, let me first of all appeal to persons who are doing exams in January. There are many persons who might not have passed their CXC or CAPE sitting in the recently concluded exams. Mid-June results would have already came back, and they are trying to do it to get a pass before mid-June next year. So therefore, they would have been registered to do the exams in January. And there are some who maybe just want to go ahead, get some subjects in advance. Maybe some might be in third form, fourth form, and they would like to accumulate some subjects before moving up to fifth form, but they would like to do some in January and then do a few more in mid-June. There is usually a problem associated with persons who register to do exams in January. Somehow they get distracted because it's a unique matrimony where we have our festival and Christmas as one unique matrimony of carnival and Christmas celebration. Some persons are poorly timetabled and their coping skills with the distractions very horrible. They lapse in the preparation for these exams, and their friends or associates who are not too much interested in academics, and even some who have great regard for academics. Somehow, the recreation and the entertainment usually overpower them. But persons would have had a reason to register to do those exams. and the lack of discipline plays a very important part in a lot of them not showing up to do the exams. And I think that we need to get it right. Sometimes you just have to let carnival celebrations just relax them, suspend them until next year. This is not going to be the last carnival. They have 53 coming up next year and 54 thereafter. Sometimes you have to have a plan. How many subjects would I like to acquire for the next 2 years? And you walk towards it. Don't let anybody distract you. Some of us just don't put in an extra effort. Some of us might have been doing the appropriate thing, but come December, they get so distracted that a lot of principles and concepts would just go past them. And I'm just appealing to those people who would have registered, wherever you registered, with whomever, it doesn't matter. You need to have a timetable. It's not that you have to miss every carnival activity, but once you have a timetable, it is very easy to fit it in. You know that you want to go to the Queen Show on this particular night, but you're supposed to put in several hours work for that day. You go to sleep early and you get up about 2 o'clock, and you put in 4 hours from 2 to 6. And 4 hours in a day with respect to a particular subject, preparation, that's quite some time. Put in 4 hours. And I think you can get the proper mix of preparation and recreation and entertainment if you are disciplined enough. It's not difficult. But what happens is that when you're not timetabled, then you just study sometimes. No consistency in your efforts. And if you have to sacrifice anything, do not let it be your examination preparation. It'll come back to haunt you. The reality is, things are becoming a bit difficult in terms of jobs and everything. Everybody would like to work for government, but government cannot employ everybody. And as a result of that, you have to prepare yourself with various options. So when you do not get through one place, you try somewhere else. And once you do that, you should have a balance. And then the lot of anger that bottles up inside us because a politician could not meet our request favorably. That would be a thing of the past. A thing of the past. But we have to prepare ourselves. Some people don't want to qualify themselves, whether through acquisition of knowledge or the acquisition of certain skills. But yet they want to be employed. They want to be favorably considered. But they don't have much to impress. And as a result of that, these people can become frustrated. They can stress themselves. The stress can lead to anxiety. The anxiety can lead to depression. The duty is yours. You have a responsibility to yourself. What do you want to achieve in life? And then you start working towards that. Nothing should distract you. Absolutely nothing. And people got to bring their life in line. You need to get the basic requirements. You have prerequisites to further your studies. You have prerequisites that would be needed for a job. And you got to try to raise your standard of living. Your standard of living can only get higher if that buoyancy element, which is called a job, a secured job, properly paying secured job. Unless it's going to be a struggle for a very long time. You have to try to get yourself qualified. For 2023, you decided, look, I would like to have about 4 subjects. So maybe I do 2 and then 2, I do 3 and then 1, I do 1 and then 3, and put in the necessary work. So right now we're in December, people should be making plans for 2024. Where am I starting in 2024? And you must find a way to measure your success. You have to. You cannot be marking time at the same spot you started in January. Come December, you're looking around, you're the same spot. You have to have plans to move ahead. You heard the Prime Minister talk about productivity. Sometimes you can only improve your productivity after you would have vertically moved upwards with your acquisition of knowledge or skills. Unless you'll be doing the same thing every day, every single day. And if you're part of a workforce where there is a possibility of you elevating yourself upwards, you have to find out, what do I have to do to get a vertical climb on the job? Because if you stay there in a horizontal position, that line would be horizontal for a very, very long time. And then you'll be at the mercies of the government in terms of minimum wage or a general increase throughout. And those of you working in the private sector, you would have to try even harder. There are some jobs that do not lend themselves to vertical climb in terms of the stratification or the structuring or the organizational structure of the business place that you're working in. You have to find out, I'm going into this business, how far do I want to reach, how long I want to be there for. And once you can chart your way forward, you work towards it. You work towards it. And you must be amongst people who would encourage you. Some people just simply work to get sufficient to attend a particular activity. After that, they might not work for another few months. Another activity coming up, they would work. Maybe that paying of that dividend twice per year, whenever it can be paid, and if it is based on your contribution to Social Security, that might be a source of encouragement for some people to work and start making contributions to Social Security, because they realize what's going on now. And you got to work. And Social Security is there to help us, benefit on various occasions at different junctures in our lives, and eventually to pay us a benefit at the time when we retire. You have to put in, you have to ensure that your bosses are making the contributions, because some bosses would like to pay a little extra until you forget about making contributions to Social Security. And then eventually, when you have to make a claim because you did not have sufficient contributions, you just cannot get it. I heard the Social Security people on a radio station talking about the pension, the benefit, and they said somebody had 499 contributions and thus did not qualify for the pension. And they said they're using microscope, they're looking to see where they could find one more contribution to bring up that person to the 500 because they were only behind by one. Somebody called in and asked, no, one of the hosts asked if the person could not make a contribution and then become qualified for the pension. And I said no, it would not happen like that. So we have to be mindful. Our life would have to be structured. Even when you're in high school and you're getting ready to either leave school and go into the workforce, I think that you should be engaged in conversations with the way forward. Some people might want to go private sector, some might want to be their own entrepreneur, others want to go with government. And most people at times tend to want to work for the government because of the benefits. When you put in a certain number of years, you get your gratuity. In the private sector, sometimes you get a little benefit, but it's not as structured as the government's gratuity system. So people should be told what they have to do instead of waiting until it's too late and then they don't have much to rely on. You have to know what life is all about. You have to educate yourself about the workplace. Get to understand what benefits you can have, how many sick days you can have. And if you want to play sick all the time, they can medically board you. So we have to be aware, educated with respect to our local environs. Right? So those of you who registered to do exams in January, you have another month. Yes, exam will be in the first week of January for some and maybe throughout January for others. Maybe you might have an exam all the way down to the 20 something, but they start as early as the very first week in January. I have known persons having to leave band and jamming and find themselves up in the exam room because we have to understand CXC. They can make provision for every carnival we have in the islands that are doing CXC. England used to do us that. Cambridge, I can recall having an exam on, I think it was Whit Monday. At that time, we used to be residing in Tabernacle, no bus running. I think I would have walked from Tabernacle to Boria just before you go into Molyneux. And eventually I got a ride to go and do my exam. But now we are doing it Caribbean style. Sexy should have an idea where carnivals are held. And maybe try as much as it is pragmatic to schedule exams to facilitate what's going on in the region. But once you committed yourself, just put in the work. And once you put in sufficient work, you pass it first time around, or even second time around, and you have another subject under your belt or another set of subjects under your belt. But discipline is key. Associate yourself with people who are going to encourage you to build that foundation. That foundation will later be a precursor for your future advancement. It's not everybody who would stop out of school with 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 subjects. Some people stop out of school with no subject at all. And they take the time and they build and build and build and build. because government asking you for 5 subjects inclusive of English and maths. They don't want to see them on one certificate. They could be on 5 different certificates. The fact is that you would have been able to accumulate those subjects and you're now ready to put in your application. That is discipline. That is ambition. If you don't have any ambition, you'll just wake up and live the day God through the day. I wouldn't even say live, because I just said you're merely existing. You gotta got some sort of plan, man, and acquire a skill, acquire some knowledge, make yourself marketable. Sometimes you don't wish to just take up one aspect of work, because sometimes the scope for application might not be so nicely accommodated. You might give yourself an option, do this, do that, and make yourself marketable. I can recall while accumulating a few subjects, I said, well, let me do my accounts, commerce, economics. Then I said, well, suppose things do not work out like that. That's it for me? I said, no. So you do the chemistry, the physics, the biology. You balance it out. And then later on, still looking for options now because you don't know what will ever happen. You do a little psychology. So you're spreading yourself now. The probability of you getting a reasonable job is increasing because you're making yourself more rounded. So you have the accounts, the commerce, the economics, you got the physics, the biology, the chemistry, and then you do a little bit of psychology. In this case, I did forensic psychology. And then you still want to broaden the spectrum, you do a little law. You do a little law. So the spectrum is wider and wider and wider. And even if you have to migrate to increase the probability of you being able to get a reasonable job. And then yet you widen it some more by doing clinical psychology, walking above the shoulders of people. So when you walk, you feel confident. I don't have any place to go outside of St. Kitts. I'm not looking any work outside of St. Kitts. This is my last stop. Whatever left of me would go towards my born in land. I have nowhere to go out of St. Kitts. So even though you did all this to increase the probability of you getting jobs even overseas when you go, your intention to work here and build your own land is important. So you'll have to work out, where do I want to pursue my career? Some people might want to go to America, some want to go to England, some want to go to Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Taiwan. You have to work out all of that. How many years would I want to spend outside? You say, well, let me go out and put in 15 years work and then come back and see how much more I can contribute to my country. You might have had a student loan, and student loan not easier. I say, well, thank you to the PM and the Development Bank for providing a little easement when you're talking about repaying students' loan. You have to. And that is why some people stay overseas, maybe work for US, work for pounds. So let us suppose a dollar is a dollar in a man country and you're working for £2,000 a month in England, or 2,000 US per month in the US, and you're working for 2,000 EC a month in St. Kitts. You see what happening? The £2,000 will be converted to about close to 7,000 EC. So if you had to pay back $1,000 on your student loan monthly, when you convert the pounds to EC, you could pay back about two. So you can half the time that you take to pay back your loan. If it is in the US, you may put it 1 to 2.5. 2 times 2, that's 4. That's $5,000. And if you have to pay back one, you pay back two. So you're ahead, you're doubling up on the time that you're lessening the time that it will take you to pay off. You have to put all these plans into place. No way we could just wake up now and just go about as if we don't care. You must have a plan. There are some people who trying to save money to go to university. That can't happen. The chances of that happening, very, very, very slim. You would have to commit yourself financially to a loan or something because by the time you finish saving, you might be close to life expectancy around here. It's very difficult to save to go to college. You have to commit yourself to a loan, structure it in a way that you can get the flexibility of pursuing your studies and come back and do what you have to do. But nobody in the right mind, or if you just have a few, those would be outliers. Family wealth passed down to them from different generations. They could manage those stuff. The majority of us cannot. We have to commit ourselves to loans. So plan and plan carefully. And I think that we can make some progress that way. Sometimes you might need a partner. You need a wife, a husband. You'll shoulder the responsibilities, the financial responsibilities together. Sometimes one would go off first, complete, and then the other one would go. But the great thing about current times is that you don't even have to travel to study. You could stay right here, do an associate. You could stay right here, do a bachelor's. You could stay right here, do a master's. You can stay right here and do a doctorate. So it's not like once ago where you always would have to travel to study. And when you don't travel, you're saving economic costs because it's apart from paying the tuition and everything else. You have to eat out there, you have to find some place to live and all sort of stuff. And sometimes you want to rely on family members, and it can become a problem. Because sometimes your family members will tell you, come, we'll look after you. And when you reach, they don't even want to open the door for you to come in. And when you reach in the house, you don't even know which room to go in. But these are the same people who are begging you to come. And now you reach, you see, see me and come live with me at two different things. Yeah, and that is how it goes. I can recall, I share my own experience. Come, cut down economic costs, stay with us. So, okay. Gone. I met the two homes. Then I would be going in one or the other. Nobody can make up their mind, and they tell me, come. When rain started to come now, I just pulled my bags to the house that was closer to me and went in there. You feel a bit uncomfortable because none of them made up their mind which house you're going to stay in. And then I slept in a chair for almost an entire year. Just taking out my clothes out of a bag, putting them on, going to college, going to university. And sometimes it's a real struggle out there. Sometimes it's better for you to make the sacrifice, get yourself amply covered with a loan or something, Because families, when they're extending their hand for you to come, they don't always be in the same frame of mind. And if you're sensitive enough, you'll pick it up early. You'll pick it up early. You know, they're proud to say, well, this is my cousin, this is my family, this is my nephew. And they brag, they brag, they brag, they brag. But the accommodation at home, bitter, man, and discouraging. Real bitter and discouraging. So sometimes I share my experiences with people so they could understand you can't always rely on people, regardless of the relationship. I used to live with an uncle of mine. Want to brag up and down the place. If I go and play football or score a few goals, that is my nephew. Played cricket, made a few runs, took a few wickets. That is my nephew. Everything, everything, nephew. And when I go home to eat after training, because I used to train very hard, I used to run 100, 200, 400 for the college. And you go home and you're really hungry. Now, I can share this, because people got to understand the hardship you would have gone through while studying. We lived together. One plate, one fork, one spoon, and of course you have a pot, maybe a frying pan. And imagine when food is cooked. You have to wait until, well, I had to wait until the good gentleman finished eating to wash that plate and then share my portion. It was very, very uncomfortable. Because sometimes you're hungry bad and you can't afford to wait. And he like to chat too. So he eating and he chatting, so I getting more hungry and the time going as I gotta wait longer and longer. And I only went there because he promised me that houses were difficult to get. But he will take me in with him, and when he was ready to move out, which would have been 2 months' time, I would have already been there, and the landlord would just accept this shift in person paying the rent. But that never happened. Never happened. Don't talk about when he buy soap for you to shower. You know the size of those wash, we call them sweet soap. That gentleman cut the soap in 3, put up the other 2 pieces. You couldn't even soap up the wash rag properly. You might have had to put the soap inside of the wash rag. You want some water in it and you get a little ladder and you do what you have to do. Very, very, very uncomfortable. And of course, I wasn't working anywhere. I attended college. And the money that Development Bank gave back then could have only lasted a year and a half. So, of course, I have to work from 6 in the evening until 6 in the morning to make a little penny to survive a little better. 6 in the evening to 6 in the morning, go to college for 8 o'clock. Sometimes you have a free session up there, you go in a side room and you slept. And even though they tell you come and everything and they're working for this and that. And there were times when I go home and nothing there to eat because he done cook, clean up, everything. You couldn't even tell that food was in the house. Come like he would have used Febreze or something like that to remove the molecules of the food off the wall. And I walk out, Mama, I'm foolish. I can't take this nap boat anymore. I ain't had any place to go. So, as the captain of the cricket team, the football team, the running team, the people at the university decided, well, they would give me a pass for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And that is how things started to improve. There were times when I had to really work hard. Sometimes I on a truck walking, moving people from one place to the next. Some people from St. Kitts would see me and say, give up a nice paying job in St. Kitts to come and talk about you working on truck, but they don't know half the story. They don't know half the story. And then when results and everything come out, that is my nephew, that is, so maybe that is how it set me up now, not to want to depend on anybody really. My children and have conversation with them, that is my therapy, my encouragement. You don't find me socializing because I was never brought up that way. I'll go to maybe Judge a Calypso should do something, but when you experience certain things, you just stay away. You create your own little, you have your little microcosm, you live within that and you're comfortable. But it's not easy going overseas to study. There have many persons who would have left and gone overseas to study and they ain't finished up to now. They change their major, they change their minor, they change. And after 10, 15 years, they still would not have achieved in the bachelor's that they went out there for. So you got to plan. Plan. And I never lived on campus, that's very expensive. Could not afford that. I come from a very, very poor family. And I would help people with maths and physics and chemistry, but maths got calculus, algebra, and those things. And I helped somebody who was really struggling at university. She would have done 2 years, and she was struggling to get through with calculus and the physics. And I helped her, and she gave me a vehicle to use because then she got over that hurdle. She was a young Arabian woman who got married very, very early to some kind of millionaire person. So she walked out since I got her over that hurdle and nobody else tried because English wasn't her first language. So you have to have patience. And I can recall, I was in the lab. We were making an explosive, and the explosive was based on vibration. So nobody, the security guards and them, did not allow anybody across on that corridor because just the vibration alone could have triggered off something. Even though you had it in sawdust and everything else, you still had to be careful. So in the end, I being mindful that I have my thing well cushioned with the sawdust because it's vibration. And some explosives we go off based on vibration, some we go off based on increase in temperature and those other stuff. And they came to the university, about 4 of them, and they said that your grandmother just passed. And I said, okay. And I went back in. I said, okay, and I went back in. It's like they wanted me to break down and cry and all sort of stuff. And that did not happen. I just said, okay, and I went back in to pay attention to the compound that I was putting together. When I reached home, my clothes and my books them out in the street. You could imagine that? All because I simply said, okay. I got by the gate, my bag, my clothes, my books, my shoes, I'm out by the gate. Simply because I said, okay. That is why I'm going to put a book together, because sometimes people feel like family is the best thing you could have. And I like to say blood thicker than water, but sometimes the water is more life-saving than the blood. And that same lady who I helped to get over that hurdle, the same lady, she rented a room in a hotel for me, and I stayed there until I finished university. So it's going to help. She was struggling with physics and maths and chemistry, and I helped her, and she succeeded. I think she came sometime to play volleyball for the university, but I didn't get a chance to meet her. You know, so you have to make up your mind that you have to struggle sometime when you go to university. It's not a piece of cake. You have to have sleepless nights. If you're into science, you might have about 4 or 5 labs to write up over the weekend. 4 or 5 labs to write up over the weekend. And that is why sometimes students talk about SBAs. When you go to university, you have a lot of things to do. And that is why I teach like that. I make people go to the front of the class and make presentations. Maybe I just choose a topic, tell them make a presentation and that. Talk on that for, I can't even say 5 minutes. Some of them cannot make it to 2 minutes. They do 30 seconds and they're wondering if the world falling in on top of them. And that is how they learn to respect teachers when they're up there, because when they get a chance to go up, they cannot talk for even 2 minutes. After a while, once you massage them into it, some of them will be able to talk for 5, 6, 7 minutes. And I told them, when you go to university, you have to make presentations, they call them seminars, where you have to talk for close to 2 hours with everything on display and explaining everything. And some professors, they are merciless. I had a few professors who were prejudiced against colored people. But what am I going to do? Imagine one was real prejudiced and he had to teach me 2 courses. I can remember doing my first chemistry, biochemistry seminar. And it's like the questioning even before I really gathered my momentum. But I've always been somebody who could concentrate on what I'm doing. And I was talking about, I think it was sickle cell anemia. You know, that impacts black people more so than white people. And they're happy for that topic because they want to make us, my color, feel badly. Yeah, and I went through an amount of questions. It seemed as if that seminar went on for 4 hours, every minute an interruption. Those are things that you'll meet up sometimes. And I went through. And then when they're done, they got the guard to come and hug and shake your hand, and they well wanted you to do poorly. But that was up to all of that. You got to be thinking. You got to be aware of your surrounding, be aware of the people who are structured and integrated into whatever to teach you. And I saw that they really enjoyed themselves because they feel like they were laughing after black people, so to speak. And I said, okay. Because I had to do 2 of them for my senior year. The next one I did it on cystic fibrosis, a disease that only impacted white people. It seemed as if the seminar didn't last an hour and a half because they had no questions to ask, nothing at all. And I deliberately did it that way to take the pressure off of me. When I did about sickle cell, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, smiling faces, tapping on shoulder, tapping on legs. But when I did cystic fibrosis, somehow I see that they weren't pleased but they cannot fail me because it was filled with substance, a lot of demonstration. So you have to be aware. You got to find your comfort zone. You got to find your comfort zone. You don't let anybody run you because a little prejudice lecturer or professor. You go through that, you could go through anything else. I could remember our organic chemistry teacher fighting to mark me down in a major exam. Fighting. I'm not certain about that, but you end up with the product. I'm not certain about that, but. And when they give you a take-home exam, that is how wicked they could be sometimes, you know. Some people feel when you get a take-home exam is something nice, easy. We got a take-home exam with 12 questions. And that was over a weekend. It was due the Monday. Well, they were really rough because it was physical chemistry. And physical chemistry, they had this maybe subject you could ever do at a university. I all down on the beach doing this, doing that, trying to get them. Some of them one question take up about 8, 9 pages. And I think I finished 9.5, less than 10 out of the 12. And I went to the class early because class was 9 o'clock. So I went up after 8 and I'm looking over, making sure that only 2 of us in the class, you know. Big university, only 2. Because PChem is an easy subject but it's compulsory for the 2 of us to have done it in order to graduate. And then 9 o'clock reached and he come, time is time. So I gave him my 9.5 questions. Felt comfortable because it was really rough. And then this girl came in now, this white girl came in and he putting out his hands and she puts her face in a kind of way. He said, what? So she only finished 5. And I said, okay. Take 2 more days to bring them. And he bring back my paper. And he was giving me. I tell him time is all right. I didn't take them back. And he felt away. All because she finished 5. I finished 9.5. Tell me time is time. But I didn't really want any time from him in the first place. I gave him my paper at the time 9 o'clock came. But when she came and she only finished 5 and putting her face in a kind of way as if to say they were extremely hard. So take 2 more days. So he pulled back his hand from asking her for her work and he giving me back. I tell him time is time. And I was dead serious and never took back that paper. And she got extra 2 days. Maybe she finished about 6 3/4, 7. Maybe she wanted 2 more months. Whatever he had to do, he had to do. And he was there helping her, you know. That's the funny thing about it. This thing is a test and he helping the white lady. And he felt bad. But you see, you can't, these are things that you can't control. Can't control. So you got to make up your mind to deal with the rough times. Some experiences at university, you know, you share them with people so they could understand. Then the physics teacher decided only 10% of the class supposed to pass the exam. 10%. That means out of every 10 persons, only 1 supposed to pass. And he bragged about it. Professor Cap, yes. Cap is first and yes, YESS. second name. 10%. You know, universities fire people when a large percentage of the students them fail. And this man bragged openly that not more than 10% of the students supposed to, and there were only about 9 of us, 10 of us. Physics is something that people like to play with. And the gentleman brought the exam so hard, and the questions were a bit sequential. You had to get out question 1 before you could even dream about starting question 2. So you got 4 people like the pen ain't touch the paper at all. I said this can't happen to me, but the first question is terrible. But I say if I don't pass this, I have to repeat that class and repeat a whole year. That's a whole year's money. I said, well, man, I got that kind of money there. I got to find a way out of this jam. Man, deliberately bring this hard question for the first one. And everything else depended on that. Well, I just said, assuming the answer for question 1 is A, B, C, D, I did everything else with A, B, C, D. So, even though I would have lost marks for question 1, I did not just study and didn't write anything. And then he realized now that whatever the answer was for question 1, when he took that answer and put it in the rest questions and the answers them that I gave, they fitted in perfectly well. And that is how I got out of the jam. I just assumed the answer that and used that assumption to do the rest of the paper. That man decided that not more than 10% of the class supposed to pass. You know, because of the color. You know, something you wouldn't believe the things people would have to go through out at university. And then when they come home, whatever they're doing and they want to be rewarded, whether work-wise, some people have got issues with that. Some people come home a little pep in their step, and people feel like they're boastful, and sometimes it's just how you feel you want to carry yourself after going through all that torture at university. Sometimes you see people go to university and they come back, you think all is well. At most major universities, they have a psychiatric ward, you know. And you have persons who would police the students as they study. Police the students as they study because they know exams coming up and a few of them going to flip. That's a reality. And they would have to take them for medical attention. And that is a message too, even those who are here doing several subjects. You have to be mindful that you must be consistently be doing your work. Unless it would pile up on you, you would panic, your brain would just shut out, and you hear people say, boy, I blank out in the exam. What do you think they blank out? Because they're subjecting the brain to pressure because of poor preparation. And the brain work out, no, you ain't gonna knock me about like that. Are you gonna shut down on you? So don't care how hard you think, nothing coming. It's not really that people don't forget things, you know. When you put something in that memory bank, sometimes the problem is getting it out. It's in there. You just need the right trigger to get it back out. And if you're not relaxed, it would not come out like that. It would not come out like that. You have to consistently study. You get your work a week time, you revise. You get work the next week, you revise both weeks. Put more emphasis on week 2. Week 3, put more emphasis on week 3, you revise. So by the time exam time comes around, you're good to go. Because you're consistently doing it. But if you don't and you force yourself to cram all that work, you're going to injure your brain. You can get headache, you can get all sorts of stuff. You have to be extremely careful in preparing for exams. You even have some parents telling the children, people don't go crazy when they study too hard. Maybe they know some story about somebody maybe attempted to do the whole of subjects and did not get through and had a bad experience. But we should not be telling children that people will go crazy when they study too hard. I feel it's people who did not achieve much keep up those sort of chat. They try to discourage. Some people can be happy for other people. Clap for people. When your time comes, people clap for you. Some people just cannot bring themselves to be happy for other people. And discourage the children. You got some people amongst us in our society, the cultural practices are full. Soon as you go away to do some study that you advance yourself, they believe they know it all. They went university, they do this, they do that, and they can't do that, and they can't do that. But you have to bring up the fact that they went university. Some people just naturally envious of persons who pursue their studies. Man, you have some intelligent persons who don't even have to go to any university to contribute productively to the society, to the gross domestic product. Sometimes all university would do for some people is to give them the certificate so that their pay scale would increase. But you have persons with degree can execute from the practical perspective as well. But there is no reason for people to envy people's academic achievement or the skill acquisition. Just be happy for people. If our society could only shift in its mindset towards persons who try to advance themselves, we'll be a much better place. We'll be a much better place. We envy those who would have gone and make vertical crimes in the academics. And then when we have to bring in a lot of consultants because we don't have that expertise in our federation, we still feel bad when the money got to go to local circulation. But we still envy people when they go and they study. If you don't do that, a lot of consultants going to come here and take all the money we have out of local circulation. Things going to be tough. So whatever we can, and I never really did like that, and I'll tell you plain now. I never really did enjoy seeing consultants come from wherever they come from, because I knew that the monies would have gone out of local circulation into somebody else's economy. Build, create buoyancy in the economy while ours sinking with a noose around your neck, some weight around your neck that you can't even saddle the water properly. We have to do that. I have worked with consultants on behalf of the government in the past. Somebody came here one time to do climate change issues. They wanted to know if it was a sink or a source of carbon dioxide. Imagine that. They wanted to work out if sinkage was a sink or a source. Sink meaning that we don't put much into the atmosphere. Source mean that we put a lot. Because you put and you're going to take out. You know, we have our plants and our forestry and all those other stuff. Carbon dioxide is produced by vehicles and bakery and factory one time. And the plants then would take the carbon dioxide out the environment. And then they make food and they push out oxygen for us. So, you know, the process photosynthesis, carbon dioxide plus water to give you oxygen and glucose. 6 carbon dioxide plus 6 water to give you glucose, which is C6H12O6 plus 6 oxygen, 6 O2. The popular formula we learned from since whenever. And we had to work hard, a lot of calculus. This man coming on, get a wall of money just for a short period of time. Get a wall of money to leave. And first I wasn't supposed to be a part of the program, but the local person with whom he was working, I heard him using indecent language against the lady because somehow the dots were not connecting. And he became frustrated at the amount of bad word he gave the lady. I was in my office trying to put some things together to apply for some funds for St. Kitts. And I left it and I came out and I asked her what happened. And she there crying. I heard the bad one. Everybody can cope with them embarrassment there. And I said, you know what? I have to go and pick up my daughter. If you could go for her, I'll take it over from here. And I walked with the gentleman. Because apparently they made 3 attempts and the numbers were not adding up. Because St. Lucia bigger than us. But we're getting a figure as if we're bigger than St. Lucia. So it created some confusion. And then we had to use some calculus, derivative, integration. And we got a figure that was ideally acceptable because it was based on our population size. And I felt happy to see that I could have come to the rescue of a local female who was being embarrassed by this man we brought in as a consultant. And then God had to ask me if he could invite me out for lunch and we have a discussion over that. I tell him, no, I don't have time for that. You get your big check with your lot of $1,000 and you come ask me if we could have a lunch together. I said, no. And I shook his hand and I went my way and he went his way. But that was a lot of money that went out of local circulation. And to be honest, I think I did about 90% of the work. But the consultant gone with 100% of the money. It wasn't really my job to go and assist him, but I stepped in to save the lady embarrassment with a lot of bad word he was swearing on. Sometimes we have people come here and they have to rely on the locals so much that those in authorities do not realize that. They do not realize. And we have so much faith in them. The reality is that we have a lot of people here more intelligent than some of the consultants that we bring in. But we have an inferiority complex that foreign is always better. And a xenophobia. But foreign is not always better. We have a lot of intelligent people in our federation that can do some of the work that we give consultants to do. Maybe we don't trust each other. Maybe we envy each other. And sometimes we feel like a particular paycheck is too much for a local. Now you'll be surprised. They don't mind paying the consultants and whatever they have to pay them. But as soon as a local would have to invoice something for them, they want to cut it to 1/10. And it happens all the time. Consultants get away with a lot of stuff. I think they were trying to do something on our cricket pitch because apparently that pitch in Warner Park down for a very long time with the big stone and so on and it there, and it takes away from the bounciness of the pitch. So they wanted to do a profile of the soil. They had to do a sieve analysis and see how the various sections of the soil was composed. Now, they came to the department and they sent a document saying that they would pay $100 per day. But I realized I'm reading the document and I sense something missing from this. Where the West pages? Where were the West pages? And I asked questions. I say, yes, I could be a part of this. I can do the analysis. I can do that. But where the rest of it? When I wrote to the people, went behind their back, wrote to the people, and asked them if they could send me a copy of the document. They said, well, there's a full document in St. Kitts already with the government. I said, but I don't have how many pages. And I told them how many pages. And so they sent it by email. When you reach the document is saying $100 per day. You know. But these people here, they don't want to see anybody get anything. So they're telling you 100 EC per day. And I know that work was worth more than 100 EC per day. And when I saw the $100 per day, I tell them, man, you all try to deceive me. I don't wish to be a part of this project. And that was the end of that. They feel like certain things too much for locals, but they don't mind paying 3 and 4 times the amount to foreigners. Consultants, let me say consultants. So we have, if we're going to be sustainable, we have to develop those expertise that we are constantly bringing in people to assist us with. A sustainable state, island state. We have to go to productivity. We have to help out the government. We have to. And we can only do that by looking around to see what we are lacking and try to send people to study. We must make a projection that in 5 years' time, we should have a few more chemists around here, for example. So they go and they do their 3-year and they do masters, if that is the case. Or whatever you're looking for. There must be a grace period where we're going to be stuck without these persons who are going off. Because say you send off 6, 7 persons, you know at the end of that particular period we have 6, 7 more persons to add to the workforce. At that time we might still want the consultants them to come in to fill the void until such time. But upon completion we wouldn't have any need for any consultant. Now we got to put our people first. Put our people first and let money stay in local circulation. But how would we see the problem that maybe the development bank would need to do this? We have a lot of people like to go for loans to study. And they want to do A, B, C, D. But the country is in need of X, Y, Z. So if you continually give people loans to go to do A, B, C, D, and nobody going to do XYZ. We'll forever be without XYZ. So maybe you could say we're not giving any loans to do ABCD, we're giving loans to do XYZ. And then people will shift their focus and go and do XYZ. And we would not be without the expertise of XYZ. We have to try. Stop giving people loans to do. Well, not stop, but control it. Everybody wants to be in business management because they feel that is an easy degree to get. You understand? And even if you want to go into business, a concentration in economics would be great. We can do with some economists around here. But people tend to be running from the economics because almost everything in economics you can produce a graph for it. And some people don't like the mathematical part of it. They cannot escape all, but they try to reduce the math requirement as much as possible. You're looking at economics book and a lot of graph, a lot of intersection, supply and demand, the cost of something. You had a choice to buy a fridge or to buy a stove, and you came to the decision that you buy a stove. The true cost of the fridge is the cost of the stove. Whatever you sacrifice to get that, the true cost of that is the one that you sacrificed. Economics is really, really sweet. I don't think we have sufficient persons locally into economics, macroeconomics, microeconomics, and we would better. And I don't know. I don't know how CXC and them came up with this subject they call principles of business. That they would have found our people throughout the years. Principles of business. You also had the hardcore commerce. Commerce is trade and the factors that aid trading. Economics, dealing with scarcity, supply and demand and scarcity. And of course, you have accounts with your transactions. How could you take a little bit of each, so to speak, and put it into a subject called principles of business? How deeply would our students be able to go when dealing with commerce, trade and the factors that aid trading, post office, banking, warehousing, those stuff? How can we go deeper into them when we have just taken off the top of each one and present it as principles of business? Almost everybody in a school would want to do principles of business because of easy pass. They're running from even the accounts, the economics. Then all of a sudden commerce just disappeared. But we expect our people to understand trade and factors that aid trading. All the imported inflation and those sort of things that we have. Commerce, balance of trade, the banking system. Because as much as you would do a little bank reconciliation in accounting, the banking system is better dealt with in commerce. And we find that some of the subjects around here is centered around too much theoretical work. We need the practical aspect. You should have people stopping out of school with accounts and principles of business. I think they're doing a little economics now. And don't even know why a check would be dishonored. Can him go to the bank and recognize a withdrawal slip, a deposit slip? Then you have a check that is crossed, what it means. Our children need to become more au fait with business transactions that take place in society. And then the schools are setting up their schedule with science coming up against business. So you don't put chemistry against accounts, meaning that you either do chemistry or accounts. You put physics against what? Economics. So most of the time, you find people would come out with either business or science, and that's not supposed to be the case. You're supposed to come up with a combination, explore your options, come up with business alone, and everybody going away to do business. What is going to happen to you? It might even be sweeter if you focus on your science alone rather than business alone. Because you focus on your science alone, if you get a 3 in chemistry, somebody might have gotten an a 1 in accounting. That person who got the 3 in chemistry is more marketable than the person who got the 1 in accounting. See how many students we have in chemistry classes. See how many. Chemistry class, 8 people, 9 people, 10 people, 11 people. And accounts class, 40 something people. That is telling you that something is wrong. You need to make a science compulsory instead of matching antagonistically science against business. What is that? We're limiting our children, our students, our population. I think what really supposed to happen is that the schools, in as much as it is practical to do that, try to work from the students' needs. We are too paternalistic. We want to dictate to the students what they should do. Sometimes they're not even enjoying the set of subjects you have there for them. Because you just dump the subjects on them, you didn't give them a choice per se. You match accounts with chemistry and this and that, and you either do that or you can't do that and that. You don't do accounts and chemistry. That is too paternalistic. And our population is suffering as a result of that. You could hardly find people who could tell you about a titration, endpoint, indicators, and could still tell you about bank reconciliation, suspense accounts, errors that affect the child balance, errors that do not affect the child balance. You could hardly find people, is either that or no combination. Come on, man, we could do better than that. We can do much better than that. I don't even believe people should be doing more than 8 subjects in school. It's totally unnecessary. Totally unnecessary. And then you're forcing the foreign languages onto people. To me, you reach first form, you get the parents, you get the children, the students, and you ask them if your child is to do a foreign language, which would you prefer? Because somebody in the house may be able to help in Spanish. You walk around town, you don't find much people talking French, you find a lot of Spanish people around. If you're going to grow up in a society where you have a good infiltration of Spanish speaking people, why would you tell people in first form that they have to do French? Students, I'm telling you plain, they don't want to do any French, a lot of them. But then you're making French compulsory for first formers. And then apparently they do Spanish in second form. Man, it would be better if you ask the students and the parents which one they would prefer their children be taught. And you start doing Spanish from first form, second form, third form. You might even be able to do You might become proficient enough to do the exam in third form, fourth form. You don't have to wait till you reach fifth form. And I believe that our schools too should start. Convent used to do this one time. They used to do English and history in fourth form. So time they read fifth form, they already had two subjects. And I think that is the way to go. You must target some subjects to be done by fourth form. And by doing that, you'll be able to introduce a skill. Let them do some subjects by fourth form. I think English and math should be two of them. Well, I don't know what's going on with history because they're telling you that only certain people in certain classes are allowed to do history. But our people bound to make a lot of mistakes, bound to repeat a lot of mistakes. Once ago, history was compulsory. Now they're telling you only persons in certain classes would be given history to do. I mean, such as the history they're teaching maybe is a real favor they're doing people. Maybe it's a favor. I believe local history, regional history, let us put it as far as regional history, should be compulsory. If we do not make up our minds to do that, and we're sticking with our Incas and Mayas and Aztecs and those stuff, but we don't have much further to go with respect to our youths them understanding the chronological development of our federation. You go to the US to study, they got US history, they got Caribbean history, they got European history. People get a choice. I had to do history at university. Why would I pick US history? And I did not get sufficient of Caribbean history. So I had to go for my Caribbean history. I think we need to revamp the education system and have it structured properly. And we don't need any white man to come and tell us how to structure our education system. But we got inferiority complex. We know what we want. How somebody gonna come and give us a timetable what they think we want? What they think we want? When we know what we want. Just center it around that should be the nucleus. Can't get people coming here come telling us what they think we want. For what? Some of them are not even genuinely concerned about us. As far as they're concerned, they get a job to come make a few tens of thousands of dollars and they're gone. We can do what we have to do. We know our society. We have an industrial site where you have some transnational corporation in control as a parent company. You want to tell me up to now we cannot put a local industrial site together? And we need some real intense agro processing. We need to plan, we need to go around the island and set up things, we create jobs to the local needs, even if you don't get sufficient to export. And export got to come second, and now we have to generate foreign currency to pay for our imports. But at the same time, we need to develop locally first. It come like our quest is to fight for export instead of we fighting for be able to sustain ourselves locally. We got to do that first. All these years working for this transnational corporation, competing amongst us in the Caribbean, putting us against each other, trying to see who could offer the cheapest labor. See what it happened to cars now. You go Antigua say $12 an hour. You come Sinky say $3 an hour. You go somewhere else, somebody undermine $1.50 an hour. That is how they had Caribbean islands going, competing against each other, competing amongst themselves to offer the cheapest labor. Man, we help destroy our people, man. We help destroy our people. We could have been much further. Give all kind of concessions, duty, tax concessions, 5 years tax concession. When the 5 years up, they're gone. When time come to pay tax, they're gone. Because they don't get the 5 years out of us. Cheap labor. You make clothes in sink, it's critician toil and toil and toil and toil making these clothes. And when they label them and you check the tag, you see made in America. I mean, what the hell is that? Yeah? We got to come better than that. We help to cripple our people. We have stagnated our people. We could have been further as a people in the region. But the competition, just set us up. You got people up on a job, walk. Lunch them, they got to eat the lunch and the compound. I mean, what is that? What is that? People want to divorce themselves from the compound on which they work. That itself could be therapy. But you must go to work from 6, 7 in the morning. Eat your lunch there. Get a break in the afternoon. Eat whatever snack. And the same compound. Well, COVID was in 21, 22. Or 20, 21, 22. But it seems as if we had it around in an implied way for all those years that passed. They don't want you to go anywhere. Who employer gonna tell me that I must eat my lunch on the compound where I want? Where? That can't happen. You're psychologically damaging people, injuring people. That is awful, man. And sometimes the accommodation for eating is not the best. Go outside and a stone around the corner. You and your friend them eat lunch. If you happen to go across the road to buy a good piece of food to eat, time you get the food, your lunchtime up. You go back go work hungry because the time is sufficient. You want to split your lunch hour into a half an hour and 2 15-minute breaks. Now what is that, man? We're helping to damage our people, injure our people. When politicians coming around campaigning, we got to insist that those things come to an end. But again, you see, when you don't have natural resources, or your only natural resource is labor, you got to put up with a lot. We have to put up with a lot. and sometimes it's a major sacrifice of our people. But if we learn to sustain ourselves, grow what we want, people might not have much money in the bank, but they can be much happier, much happier, because you're eating what you would have grown. One thing is puzzling me a bit though, is the 25 by 25. And I think they said that it means decreasing the import bill by 25% by the year 2025. I would really want to get one of them to come to the studio and let's have a discussion. I know for a fact, if you, let us suppose you're importing 10 things, just to be on the simplistic side, you're importing 10 things and you reduce each one from number 1 to 10 by 25%. That means the total would automatically decrease by 25%. That is straightforward. Increase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Decrease each one by 25%. Overall, your cost of importation of those overall 10 things would decrease by 25%. Now, you might not be able to decrease each one by 25. You might decrease one by 10%. You might decrease another one by 27%. You might decrease another one by maybe 23%. You might not be able to decrease another one at all by any percent. So you have a combination of reduction in the import expenditure. So could somebody come and let us know the realistic aspect of this? You got 1 to 10, so a number 1 ain't gonna move anywhere. Because we must bring in this. We can't reduce that. Number 2, we could reduce that by 5%. Almost like inevitably we have to import that. But number 3, we could decrease that by 40%. Come and talk to us. Let us know what you are targeting and the reality of decreasing. It's nice to be positive, but it's better to be realistic. How much is this decreasing by? How much is that? What are the targeted items that we are trying to decrease by 25% by 2025? Come and talk. Let us have a discussion. And discuss ways in which you intend to do that. Now, if it was so necessary to import these items, because we're importing them, maybe it was necessary to do that, then when you reduce the importation of number 3 by 40%, what is going to be substituted for this number 3? Are there substitutes? Or are you going to ask people to do without? This discussion is much deeper than we are having. You're going to decrease an importation of an item by 50%, for example. That means that the society that was comfortably utilizing that particular item, they would be 50% short. So with a 50% shortage, because we're trying to reduce the importation, that means that supply would go down, demand would remain the same, and that would mean what? The price gone up. The price would go up unless people change their engaging ways with respect to specific items. When the reduction is taking place, if you can't change your mindset with respect to the demand, but you have the reduction, that means prices would go up. Prices would go up. Some people are going to be psychologically damaged as well. Because you might reduce something so considerably that you lead to scarcity. That item might be a must have for certain people. And then if they can't get it, or they could get it but rationed out, what about the mindset? What would happen? What would happen? We have to come and have a deep conversation. What is going to be the substitute of those that we had the reduction in importation? What is the relevance of these products to the people? I don't know if they have a list. Maybe I should go find out where I can go to get the information. What is the list? What are you trying to reduce? Those are key questions that people should ask. The journalists, when they go to these press conferences, they got to ask more in-depth questions. So when the press conference is finished, you have a larger fraction of the society or the population that would have been made wiser. We ain't going to a press conference go look no friend. We ain't going to a press conference who always asks about CBI and trying to push the Prime Minister in a corner. There are so many other things that we can focus on. Yes, the CBI is important. We have so many things. The list of items they're trying to, where the CBI, the Prime Minister tell you plain out that they're trying to reduce the dependence on the CBI. If it was at 40 or bring it down to 25, 30, when you bring it down, that means that that dependence that came from the generation of revenue from the CBI, there would be a void there. So, what measures would be taken to fill that void with respect to the gross domestic product? What measures would be taken? How are you going to fill the void? That is why we can't afford to have our CBI as a political football. We have to remain steadfast in securing its buoyancy, in securing it at a level that will continue to sustain our buoyancy, economic buoyancy. We can't be hammering the CBI. Yes, everybody can make an input. All with the expertise in that area, make the input and see if we can even get more. We can even get more with respect to revenue generation from our CBI. We can only be weaned off of it if you have a holistic approach by the entire population. Unless you create problems. It would create problems for us. You want to decrease our dependency on it? What are we going to substitute? And you would have heard the Prime Minister mention quite a number of things. Because him to subsidize certain activities, social activities, we become more sustainable if we can reduce the subsidization of some of them. Because we're freeing up the revenue that would have gone to the subsidization of that particular activity or service. We have to try and try very hard We dare not mess around with our CBI. And those who are doing things that are defacing our CBI product, we need to think twice about that. We need to think twice. If you're just attacking the CBI so that the current administration could look bad and the Prime Minister look even worse, that is not a good strategy. That is not a good strategy at all. We got to be very prudent. We have to protect what we have until we get the replacement. You can't throw away something and you ain't get the replacement. That would be folly. We have to get the replacement first before we mess with our economic product. And don't think it's gonna ever go anywhere, you know. It would have to take external factors and pressures and this and that for that CBI product to go anywhere. We have to maintain it. And as our backside would be, our asses would be grass. We have to, and most of us know that. We have some people pushing, applying pressure to the CBI. And when you look at some of them, they are millionaires. So if things get worse with respect to the CBI, them they done secure, them and the family done secure for generations to come. Done secure. So we have to be mindful. We have to husband our scarce resources. We have to protect that product that affords us economic buy-in. We have to protect it. We got to start having more sensible, constructive conversations. If you want to critique, we critique. But criticize in a negative way. To me, criticism has a negative connotation attached to it. Critiquing is more of a balance. You're saying this going that way, but it could be shifted a little that way. But criticize is just to bring down an utterance, a narrative, a product. And we can't afford that. Until we get a substitute, flexible, diverse substitutes for the CBI. CBI can't go anywhere. Cannot go anywhere. Don't follow people. You cannot go anywhere. We have to try. We have to fight. I wanted to touch on the double, but I think I'm going to leave that because we have some utterances being placed into the public's domain. And I feel it is unfair for anybody to try to encourage the government from giving a double salary. And technically it's not even any double salary. It is a salary that belongs to the people. A month has in 4 weeks. So 12 months would have in 48 weeks. A year has in 52 weeks. So with the other 4 weeks at the end of it, it is something that people are entitled to. It's theirs. That extra week out of the 52 belong to the people. So all who want to try to discourage the Prime Minister from giving a double for whatever selfish reason. I heard the Premier of Navy said that no double gonna be given by the NIA. The only how they get double if St. Kitts give a double. And they're talking about the federal government. That is a very unfortunate statement. But the reality is that maybe he's not in a position to do that. And maybe by trying to discourage the Prime Minister from giving the double, he might feel, well, if he doesn't do it, more monies would be available when he comes with his two empty hands asking for assistance. The Premier, that's strategic. Discourage the double, more would be available. Yes, we can bring up all sort of stuff to try justify who not doing sufficient work and who don't buy rum shop drinking the rum, and that is okay. That is okay. Well, if you are the premier, and you have your directors and other persons in supervisory position, you can delegate responsibilities, but you cannot delegate accountability. So if you have government workers in Nevis down by rum shop drinking rum for a great proportion of the day and not putting in the fair day's work, well, who is to blame? Who's supposed to correct it? Heads would have to roll. Don't wait until time for double to say, well, they're not putting in sufficient thing because they done by rum shop or drink rum. Heads would have to roll. And if that is not corrected, taking it in the backward direction, that means that the premier and the ministers would not be deserving of a double. You can delegate responsibility, but you can't delegate accountability. So if people who are supposed to be working for the government in Nevis, liming and not putting out sufficient work, drinking rum when they should be putting out energy towards the gross domestic product. If you find something wrong with it, correct it. I could agree, yes, that people must be worthy of that double. But you have a lot of government workers who work very hard. You got government workers who take home work outside the 8 to 4 and work on them till 4 in the morning and then still got to get ready to go work for 8 o'clock. You have some workers like that. What we'll have to establish is those who drinking rum and not doing a fair day's work, whether or not those are the outliers. You must find a way to do your evaluation. Your directors, your management, your supervisors, they have to be held accountable. You can't wait till the situation would have reached that level of concern to now pour it out in December. Because obviously it doesn't sound like they started at middle of November doing this thing. Seems as if it's an ongoing situation. Who is accountable for that kind of behavior? Who is accountable for rewarding that kind of behavior? What measures were ever taken to say, well, Sam Brown used to be down there, so therefore we deduct some of his pay? Is there any evidence of that on the records over by the NIA? We have to be careful. You don't take a broad brush, because at the same time when you're denying some people what they so deserve, you're creating a psychological issue for them. You have to find your own unique way of dealing with those who are not producing. How many warning letters did they get? how many terminations were dished out. You don't have any record to indicate that. That means that somebody at the helm is failing in the execution of their duties. Somebody is failing. But nobody dare dictate to our Prime Minister how to treat our people. If you can't afford to give, you can't afford to give. If it is his intention to give, he shall give. And talking about a habit of expecting a double every December. A point of correction, that is not any double. That is a salary that belongs to the people already. I agree something can be done to make sure it is more inclusive. Those who work at the industrial site and other places, non-governmental jobs. Maybe if the double is given to government workers, they could find a way of excluding government workers from the dividend and use the dividend to reward non-government workers. So you get your double, but the dividend to be shared, you share at the profit, the dividend would go towards those who did not receive a double. Maybe some tweaking here and tweaking there could lead to a more equally distributed cash action. Everybody gets something. And then it is Christmas time. If the double is given and the dividend is given to those non-government workers, can stimulate the economy. People got a lot of spending to do. Stimulate the economy. The school children who would be off can get jobs by some of the supermarkets, the stores. So it can be a job creator. Because on the contrary, you know, if the double is not paid and no stimuli are afforded to the society, people might make up their mind to go and rob because they have to eat and they have to eat differently. You never can be eating ham and you're out there eating salami sausage. And when you try to drink a Vitamalt beer and it don't tie up your tongue, you can't even relish the Vitamalt. So there are some repercussions to be had if the double is not paid. There are some advantages to be had if it is paid. Stimulate the economy. More sales to the stores. The tax you get from the sales will go to the government. So it is a win-win situation. It is a win-win. Compared to what it would otherwise be, comparative analysis would say it's a win-win. Other than that, there's a lot of robbery going to be taking place. And all of us know that. You want to kill the police force with no rest. So you just tell everybody nobody going before carnival finish. That would not be a good decision. People's vacation ought not to be stopped in December. I totally disagree with that. Because you have to have what you call fit for duty assessment. And if you have somebody whose vacation is due in December, but because of carnival and certain things, you tell them they can't go, Come on, that's only 2 persons out of 4. Check the percentage of that. You keep that person on the job and they don't function well. They function to quarter of their capacity. What was the use of holding that person and preventing that person from going on vacation? You get negative returns. Instead of getting 100% output, you might only get 25% or maybe 12.5%. The person is just not able. The person is exhausted. Don't care how you feel that it is an order and they should do the best for national interest. You got some people who just not going to fit in. They're not going to fit in. And we'll be doing more harm to our federation than if we had let them go on the vacation and come back. Well, we have reached the end of our session for tonight, and unfortunately, the guest we were supposed to have didn't come, but I guess I'll try to get him come next time. I hope that you would take your time and maybe listen to this again. It's on YouTube, Facebook, right, at your convenience, and see if you could agree with me or disagree. And you can give me a call at 665-4508 and we can have further discussion on some of the points that I made. Thank you.